Good morning. I'd like to call the regularly scheduled Board of Selectmen meeting for Monday, November 19th, 2018. And I'd like to thank the chief for his hospitality. Unfortunately, the elevator is under repair at Town Hall, so we're having the meeting in the community room of Guilford Police Department. Thank you very much for accommodating. First order of business, Pledge of Allegiance. Charlie, lead us.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Just as a quick note, Sue Renner is unable to make it this morning. Unfortunately, she had a death in the family this past weekend, so she's no longer with us. Our thoughts and prayers are with her and her family, and she'll, I'm sure, be back at our next meeting. Second item is public forum, limited to any item on the agenda. Anyone wishing to address the board in public forum? What is your topic?
Simon.
It's not on the agenda. So you can wait till the end of the meeting, which is our normal protocol.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Do I come up here?
Please do. MJ. You know the drill, right? Address for the record. Ben's done it a couple of times.
Good morning. It's a nice
Good
change of venue. My name is Mary Jo Kestner. I live at 131 Boston Street, and I am here to support the discussion about affordable housing in Guilford. We're interested in your support for an RFP for the project. I think, as you know, it's been a long history where we've searched, we've sort of solicited impact on what was needed in the community as the Guilford Foundation a number of years ago. And our survey came back with housing as a primary need for the town. And from there, it's been a long journey, as I'm sure you know, where we have looked for different properties in town where this might be appropriate and fit, and then narrowed it down to a site and done some very careful thinking about what is possible there. And so as an architect and a member of the community, I'm really excited that this could be a real project, and I'd appreciate your support.
Thank you, MJ.
Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to address the board?
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Ed Seibert. I live at 78 Fair Street, and I am here to echo the comments that MJ just made in support of the economic development of affordable housing in Guilford. In the interest of complete transparency and full disclosure, you should know that I am past president and current board member of NeighborWorks New Horizons, which currently has 34 units of affordable housing here in Guilford, and we can use many, many more. I'm also a board member of an organization called Capital for Change, which is what they call a CDFI in government speak, Community Development Financing Institution. And we finance organizations like NeighborWorks to help them provide affordable housing throughout the state of Connecticut. And I can tell you from my experience with NeighborWorks, the demand for affordable housing in Guilford is immense. With our 34 units, our turnover rate is very low, and there are many, many times over the last 15, 18 years that I've been involved that we've had to close our waiting list just because they get so long and there's no opportunity for people further down the list to get a house. And so the need is great, and I encourage you to give it favorable support. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Hearing none, let's move on to item 3, and that is the approval of minutes, November 5th, 2018 regular meeting. Is there a motion?
Move to approve.
Second. Is there any comments, questions, changes, additions, deletions? I had none.
Nothing.
Good, call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? I have to abstain. I was not at that meeting, so. Okay. All right, so
We have
motion
four.
carries? Motion carries.
Yeah.
All right, item 4, Finance Department. Sandy, pinch hitting for Mary Jane, who is off for the holiday week.
Thanks, Val.
Yeah, I
Nice
would
and
bet
warm.
points out.
Okay,
All right.
all right.
Sandy, I'll let you take over here.
All right. So in our expenses, right now, we're at a third of the way through the fiscal year, and our expenses are tracking slightly lower, very slightly lower, than they were last year at this time. We're currently at 35.5. Last year, we were at 35.9. So we're pretty much on line there. The line items such as insurance are trending higher, and that's normal as a timing issue. The payments for the first quarter. But any questions on expenses? Okay. All right, our revenue. We had our highest month of investment income in October, but we will start to see a decline in November as we have to start withdrawing the cash flow, withdraw from STIF. But hopefully by January, the tax revenue will start coming in, we'll move it back there. So the tax revenue is lower than last year. A couple of things account for this. Last year at this time, we had collected over $516,000 in delinquent taxes and associated interest. This year, the total of those two line items is only $243,000. And in addition, the tax collector reported that motor vehicle delinquencies are on the rise, accounting for a portion of the lower current tax revenue.
So it's both lower revenue and a lower percentage.
Yes. So the building department revenue is up from last year. There are a couple of large projects accounting for this increase. The social services has collected $1, you'll notice, and that's for notary fees, just in case anybody's wondering. The first installment of ECS payments has been received. It represents 25% of the Guilford actual ECS allocation of $2,156,390. Our lower budget takes into account estimated reductions. And MJ received an email from the State Department of Education noting that the prior year adjustment should be available by next payment in February and may cause a significant variance in published rates. This means that our next installment should include the reductions. Other state revenues are beginning to come in, and we have received 67% of our budget so far.
Just a quick question on fire. Normally, fire lags behind the percentage for the year. We're usually a month in arrears. They seem to be right on track at 32.9 versus the 33% of the expended year. So this, right?
Yeah,
Normally they're a month behind. Right? So that,
it just could be the way she's, recording them quicker, or they're just coming in faster.
excellent. Any other questions on revenue? No. Good.
The medical. After review of the July and August claims, we determined that July claims were overstated. July claims were held and paid in August. The corrections have been made, and the claims for the first quarter are now back to where we expect them to be at this time. Although they seem low compared to monthly budgets, keep in mind that town employees are now on the HSA plan, and claims will fluctuate as employees begin to meet their deductibles. Okay. Other revenue is lower than budgeted, but this is consistent with prior years since there is fluctuation month to month. And the overall projected fund balance at the end of the year is $4.4 million.
And where do the town's contributions to the HSA, are they reflected in this report, or is that in another expense report somewhere?
No, they're already in, they were given their portion July 1st.
Right, so where is that number reflected?
In
Sure.
your budget?
No, I'm not sure if it comes out there or not. I'm not sure if we're showing it as part of our expenses of medical. I'm not sure. mean, the payments have been made.
I hear that. That's probably number one and most important.
Which account they're coming out of, I'm not sure where they're being reflected.
Okay, but it's.
I can find out for you.
I'd like to
Yeah.
know where we can see that. Are there any other payments that need to be made for this fiscal year, or it's all front-loaded?
All front-loaded.
Okay,
Except for any new employees.
Right.
got it. Thank you.
If it's not, I think it should be reflected in this.
No kidding.
Because that's a true medical.
I think that's where it is, but I think Sandy may
I'll have to-
double check that.
Yeah, I'll have to double check.
All right.
Any questions?
Nope.
Okay.
Thank you. Item 5. We're good. All set?
Yes.
May I just say one more thing about the
Certainly.
question about the medical payments? Could you note in the minutes that we are going to get an official answer about where that, we know the money's been allocated, but where it's going to show in the financial reports? Thank you.
Okay, item 5, Board of Education Facilities. Unfortunately, Cliff Gurnham couldn't be here this morning owing to a previous conflict. And what we're looking at is discuss and take possible action on the Standing Building Committee recommendation to award Silver Petrocelli and Associates the engineering services for the HVAC system for the north section of Baldwin Middle School. We were provided with a summary from Cliff Gurnham, which has been approved by the Standing Building Committee. And I was, if anyone has any questions, I can't answer them relative to the specifics of the project, but is there a motion to award the Silver Petrocelli and Associates Engineering Services contract for the HVAC system for the north section of Baldwin Middle School?
So moved.
Second.
There you go.
Any
Thanks,
further
Ron.
comments or questions?
We've worked with them.
We've
plenty of
worked on
times.
it, we have, and Standing Building Committee approval is good by me, so. Call the question, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, abstaining, recusals, hearing none, motion carries. Item 6, that would belong to the Police Department. Police Chief Jeff Hutchinson. Good morning. Good morning. We've got 2 pieces of business. The first is discuss and take possible action to contract with Air Dynamics Heating and Cooling for the replacement of a hot water heater at the Police Department.
This is
Anything you'd like to add to that?
no, there's absolutely nothing. No, it's the original water heater. Essentially, it's time to replace it. This building's over 20 years old.
That's pretty good.
I don't think we owe it. It owes us anything. We had 3 quotes, as you can see from the documents we provided to you. We're looking to go for the low bidder, which would be Air Dynamics, for a price of $9,277 to replace it, which includes the parts and labor.
Is there, what's the warranty situation?
Be nice if we got another 20 out of it.
Yeah,
Half that would be great.
I'll be honest with you, I don't know offhand. I'd have to check that and get back to you.
Terrific.
So it doesn't. We don't use a lot of hot water here, and I think that's
why.
a good thing. You know, once in a while, it's for washing hands and showers here and there, but it's
That's
not
a lot of water heater.
It's not a heavy
That's a
load.
lot of water.
Pardon?
That's a lot of water heater if we don't.
And yeah, and that's what one of the things we talked about. It's a big water heater for not a big draw, but they said because of the proximity of the heater to where it's calling for it.
So far away.
It's so far away, they said you need to maintain it. You know, I'm not an HVAC guy, we have to go with the 3 quotes that they gave us. And if we were going to change the system, it was gonna be a far more expensive prospect. So
Okay,
they,
that was gonna be my
yeah.
question. I mean,
Yeah.
it just, you know.
yeah, we looked
use a
at,
lot of water.
we looked at
It's not a big
on-demand, we
tank.
looked at
Yeah.
some other options, and they were gonna be way more expensive, and they felt for the efficiencies of the heaters they're making these days.
Must have-
and-
When you looked at the other option, you must have looked at one of those on-demand.
Yes,
things that
yes.
everybody- Okay.
Yeah,
All right. And I'm sure a building like this is a lot different than homeowners.
yeah.
Okay.
Any further questions? Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Second. Call the question, all in favor of awarding a contract to Air Dynamics Heating and Cooling for the amount of $9,277. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, recusals, hearing none, motion carries. Item 6.2, consider and take possible action to purchase an animal control vehicle from Crowley Ford.
You may or may not know, a little while ago, our animal control vehicle was struck by another vehicle and totaled. It was not our fault. As a result of that, we received $14,016 in an insurance payment on it. The item you're looking at is, I don't know, did you guys get the photograph of the vehicle? Pardon?
I know what these are.
Yeah, so it's smaller than, we used to have a full-size big Ford van. We're looking for a smaller four-cylinder. It meets the needs of what we're trying to accomplish here. We're looking to buy it off state contract 10 PSX 0239 for $23,443. If you take out the $14,016, we're actually going to be spending $9,427 to replace that van. So we're looking for an approval to do that.
What about the interior? Well, first of all, I'll make a motion to approve.
A second.
What about the fit outs and?
The fit outs we're going to take out of motor vehicle maintenance. It's not an expensive fit out. It's not like a police car. We just need to do some stickers on the car and.
There's no cages or things like that inside?
No. So they transport in
Crates.
portable crates and things like that, yeah.
And no computer or?
We can switch that over, what we have.
Existing.
Yeah, we have existing equipment from the other vehicle that we can slide over.
Anything further? Call the question, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, recusals, hearing none, motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
Nice.
Item 7, our Director of Human Resources, Mitch Goldblatt. Good morning, Mitch.
Good morning. I've come to you this morning to let you know that the Family Medical Leave Act, FMLA, is now over 25 years old, the federal policy. It has evolved, it has changed, it's been interpreted in many ways in the last 25 years, and we have kept up with those changes. Unfortunately, our policy in the town of Guilford is still 25 years old. So what I'm bringing to you today, after attending a number of different sessions about FMLA over the last several years, it occurred to me that our policy needs to be updated, and that's what I've done here with the help of our labor attorney, Chris Hodgson, who has not only provided the template that started this, but also has reviewed this in its entirety and has given his stamp of approval on it. Just so you know, for the most part, the things that are more apparent in here than our current policy and are things that we are enacting today anyway, is that we use a rolling 12-month period. That's unclear in some other policies, including our own original one. We use sick time, personal time, and vacation time as part of FMLA so that employees can be paid for a good portion of that, if not all, if they can. We use federal forms. That makes it consistent that we use the federal forms, so there's not different form for every department as there was some time ago. And we also account for intermittent leave as well. And one other thing that's in the policy that wasn't there previously was the fact that we provide in the policy how an employee, if they're not getting paid, can continue to maintain their health care if they're on health care with the town. So it's all in the 5 pages I've presented to you, and just if there are any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Well, the changes that you've mentioned seem fine, but do you happen to have a red line copy of the changes or underline copy or something?
No,
that you
because,
could
well,
get?
what I have with me is the original, Charles, and it's 2 pages long as part of our policy, and it looks nothing like that. It's not any kind of,
Okay.
it's.
I just wanted to see, be able to review
It's
exactly all
not,
the pages.
typically I would do that for you if it was a regular contract thing, but it's,
All right. I don't have any issue with
Okay.
any of this policy, I just,
the original was much more general.
it's 25 years old.
Yeah, it was much more
Would
general.
you feel comfortable holding this over till?
No, I have no problem with anything that's here. I just wanted to see, what changes we had been making. It's, as you know, I've been involved in some negotiation, and I want to make sure that we were covering everything that we're supposed to. But it sounds like if you had Chris look at it.
Yeah, I think we're good.
All right, I'll move it.
In a second.
I'll second.
I think, Mitch, appreciate your updating the personnel policy manual.
We're working on
This is
one
this is
piece.
a target that Mitch and I have been working on for some time, also with Penn Millman, to update the personnel policy so that we have the policy that actually reflects what we are doing and what we're using. So that's an ongoing process.
It is ongoing, a long way to go, but this is one that, unlike a lot of other policies, this is one that's utilized more than you might think. And there's certainly a number of employees that have taken advantage of FMLA because they've needed to. It is a right, but we also want to make sure that if they have questions, there's something they can refer to that's a lot clearer than what they've been looked at before.
So how will this be communicated to the employees, and what documentation?
Good question, Lou. I think after you have approved this, I will be sending out in the next several days or weeks a copy of this via email to all employees. Any employees that don't have email, we'll certainly make that available to them manually.
When you might as well be prepared, I would assume, once you get it out to the employees, that questions are gonna come up, what's changed?
Yep.
So,
Basically, nothing's changed, just the way we're implementing it. What's changed is the actual putting it on paper, and it just made it a lot
you're
clearer.
gonna have to do some convincing.
Not a problem.
Well,
Not a
and I
problem.
think
Do it
there
all
were
the time.
I think there were some changes in the type of leave that was covered. There's been some recent adjustments.
There have been
I'm sure
adjustments for military leave.
Chris has
Yeah.
added those, so.
Yeah, bone marrow leave, those were not in the original legislation passed by Congress, but they have changed, and we've...
It might behoove you when you get it out to everyone to have a, I don't know, sometimes they call it frequently asked question sheets or something like that. Yeah.
Thank you.
So in effect, you're going to emphasize to everyone that this is reflecting what people already have been enjoying is the wrong word, but being
It's the
offered.
current
Yeah.
policy and practice.
Yeah.
You know, it's just a case of putting it in writing so that it's consistent with what we've done. And also, if someone is looking to apply for FMLA, they can refer to this and see much more exactly what they can expect.
And the importance is it's referred to in some of the contracts as part of the personnel policy.
Yeah.
The personnel policy is often referred to in the contracts, and that was your point, right? All right.
And there is one line in here that was in the original, this did not change. It's right in the beginning, and it says, in the event of any conflict between this policy and a collective bargaining agreement, the latter will prevail. So if there's any override, if you will, from a collective bargaining agreement that conflicts with this, that will, the CBA, collective bargaining agreement, will prevail.
Will prevail.
Yeah.
Good. Anything further? Call the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, recusals? Hearing none, motion carried.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Housing for Economic Development. Mr. George? And Sandy, you're a
Yeah.
co-presenter
I
in
know.
this
You want me
regard.
to change my seat?
I think you can stay right where you
All
are.
right.
Unless George wants you closer.
Whatever you think.
We're here to receive the recommendation from the Housing for Economic Development Committee to issue a request for proposal for a possible affordable housing project under Woodruff Rollwood property. This is the culmination of, as we've heard from MJ, a long process. And George and Sandy, you want to walk us through where we are with it at this point? And
Yeah, I'm just gonna give an introduction, and then I'm gonna turn it over to George, but I wish it was actually the culmination, but it's a very big, important step towards the culmination of actually having more affordable housing in our town. I serve as the chair of the Housing for Economic Development Plan Committee, and some of the members are in the audience today, and some of them have spoken, but I just want to acknowledge that they're here. Christy Rubendunst, Reverend Harrison West, Ed Seibert, and Mary Jane Kestner are some of the members of the committee. And we've been working on this for probably 3 years, this aspect of it. And we have been, the town has been fortunate to receive 2 grants from the state of Connecticut that have allowed us to pursue this project. So we identified a piece of land that the town owns, and the second grant that we got from the state of Connecticut allowed us to hire Patrick and Associates, and the principal, Karen Patrick, is here she's right there, to conduct a study about all the all the impacts of what can happen on that town land and what cannot happen on that town land. And that's the report that you have. And the committee looked at this report and asked many questions and had many meetings about it. And we've had some public meetings about it, and the committee is prepared to recommend to the board that the town go forward in supporting an RFP for development of this land for an affordable housing project. And that's all I'm going to say about it at the moment, and turn it over to George.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sandy. Yeah, that's correct. This is not the culmination, but it is a very important step. Pam and I have talked a little bit already about drafting an RFP. We have a little bit of an idea what would go into an RFP. Your vote, should you agree with all this, would be to authorize the first selectman, and hopefully he'll direct Pam and I to work on this further and actually prepare and issue an RFP to invite developers to submit proposals to develop the property in accordance with the description that we use in the RFP. You've had ample time to peruse this report. I believe you've all received it, probably in electronic form. This is the document that was developed by Patrick and Architects, along with other consultants who were retained by the town through the grant that Sandy mentioned. It describes both the constraints and the opportunities that are presented by the Woodruff property, and develops a series of recommendations in the form of alternative development scenarios that are feasible based on the investigations that our experts and our committee have gone through. This document would be the guidance for any developer submitting an RFP. We would use this document to, in substantial part, as the criteria for evaluating proposals to ensure that the project that they are intending to carry out is in conformance with our goals and objectives. So this plan talks about issues related to affordability, issues related to design, density, character, environmental impact. Attempts to address, to the extent we can at this point, all those kinds of issues to demonstrate that we have a feasible project, and there are several variations on the design theme that are described in the report. We would expect any proposers to conform to those. We would, once we receive a proposal, come back to the Board of Selectmen to ask you to review them. Presumably you would ask the committee to review those proposals and make a recommendation to you, and that would be the next step in this process several months down the road. We have several models that we've followed in the past related to RFP preparation and land development in very similar circumstances. This follows the model that we pursued a number of years ago that resulted in the Hubbard Woods project. We also explored the issue of RFP for land development more recently with Pages Lane, so we have some recent experience with what we need to do to prepare an RFP. We have several models that have been found specifically related to affordable housing requests for proposals, and we'll use those as guidance as well. But hopefully you can agree to authorize us to move forward.
And one thing I'd like to add for the edification of the board and also people who are watching this meeting, this is a big step, but there are many more steps to go through. If we accept an RFP that meets all the criterion that George just described, there will be other town commissions and boards that will review this. Could you just list some of those?
Well, accepting the RFP and then entering into a negotiation with the developer would require approval of this board. Should we then negotiate an agreement with the developer, Pam can help me out here a little further, but I'm sure it would also require the approval of this board. Probably, go ahead.
So you'd enter into, like, Pages Lane was set up this way. So if you if you accept a developer, we enter into a negotiation for a development agreement. And in that, like a commercial real estate purchase, you have all this due diligence that the developer will want to do. He'll do his own survey, he'll do his own environmental testing, he'll build on whatever we provide him or her. They'll need to get whatever approvals like any developer in our town.
Yeah, I was specifically thinking
Like
about
P&Z
right, P&Z or the inland wetlands
All
or
of those.
whatever are the appropriate
Right.
groups that need to review this project.
That's
That's what
right.
I'm just kind of trying to,
And that will be all part of this
Mention,
agreement.
right.
And
Okay, now, you said that we're trying to build on our experiences of this scenario at Pages Lane. There were a number of steps that could have went better, more productive, let's say. So my question is, are there developers out there and that have, done projects similar to this or in this process in other communities?
Yes, there are.
Okay.
Number, I'm sorry.
All right.
I can give you the names of some.
No, I don't need the name. I just don't want to go down a path, that will either be non-productive or so far out there that, we're recreating the wheel type thing. So, this is a process in affordable housing arena that has been accomplished before. Now, notice I didn't say attempted before.
Yeah, absolutely, it has. One of the big differences between Pages Lane and Woodruff property is that we have this. We didn't do this for Pages Lane. This is a huge step because it describes what we want in terms of the physical characteristics and the character and the affordability goals. We didn't have that with Pages Lane, so that's an improvement over that process.
I
for sure.
understand, and we have done a lot more work, and we have the consultants,
Absolutely.
and I'm assuming the consultants have contacts with developers and other communities
Right.
that have been through this process. It's
Yes,
not a new
absolutely.
process. But the point that you were making, that we have, plugged in a number of our wishes and dreams and that type of thing, and I just want to make sure that we're not, too far out there as far as what we need and too restrictive. It seems like, in their plan, it's very nice. There's no question, it's very nice. And I just, be interesting to see the numbers.
Well, you're alluding to a couple of things that are unknown at this point for sure. One of the things, in fact, the title of this report addresses this. Feasibility of developing the property was the first order of business for Woodruff. We needed to make sure that the physical conditions there were appropriate given the regulatory environment that we're in to actually enable a project that was then detailed in the scenarios that the architect and the others described. Those are developments that we believe at this stage of investigation are feasible on this property, can be permitted given the regulatory environment that we have right now, state, federal, and local permits. Obviously, there's no guarantee that that will happen. The other unknown, perhaps more of an unknown than the environmental and other permitting questions, are the funding opportunities.
I was going to say the economic feasibility.
Right.
That's the same thing.
This project will require state and federal tax credits and/or grants. I think Ed Seibert probably alluded to that in his remarks earlier. The ability of the developer to obtain state and federal grants and design the tax credit process to make the project feasible will be a key part of our reviewing proposals. We'll want to make sure that we have a developer that we recommend who actually has that capability. But again, there's no guarantee. What happens at the state and federal level in terms of grants is a process that we don't control, obviously, and those are unknowns that we're going to have to address down the road. But we need to first make sure we have developers that can respond to this and find somebody that we think can do the job, and that's the next step.
And I just wanted to add, I wanted to confirm, there was an environmental report done on the property in conjunction with the DOT, considering the property several years ago for parking with respect to the train station. And I did have our environmental lawyer, Chris McCormick, review that report just to make sure that it was not a non-starter, and he told me last week that he was comfortable that a developer could develop the property. You know, there'd be some steps that they would have to take, but that it was certainly a developable, you know, the property could be developed regardless of this environmental issue.
Regarding permitting and the DEP, there seems to be, at least I was confused, there seems to be some conflict within the document. In the design process section, it is recommended that the town of Guilford undertake a rezoning of the parcel and further discuss flood requirements with DEP in order to provide a viable location that will be attractive to potential developers. A, has that process started with DEP? And do we have the specifically viable location that will be available to the developers? Or is that going to go in concert?
That will go in concert with the development project, the developer. That'll be part of their due diligence. We are cognizant of all those issues. Janice is here actually specifically to address that question right now, anticipating that you might have that question. It is a question for us. We haven't answered the question, but I don't know if Janice wants to try to talk a little bit about that issue.
Yeah, I think the biggest issue is the flood certification process, you know, with regard to the fact that,
The 100-year flood
you know,
plain,
100-year
et cetera.
floodplain.
Yep, that's my next question.
Yeah, we would want to get in touch with DEP regarding that, and it is spelled out in the report, the process. There may be an opportunity, because it's on the fringe of the floodplain, to actually do some land filling in an area to bring up elevation high enough where it may allow us to get a LOMA, which would then remove the section of the development out of the floodplain, which could be a benefit to a developer to be able to better develop the property without the process of going through the flood cert, but we would have to confirm that process would preclude us from the certification process with DEP.
All right, my assumption is that needs to take place before the submission of proposals, because they need that kind of information to make a reasonable proposal.
We can make that inquiry to DEP, although I'm not sure that they will
Respond in time.
Well, I mean, they may give us an answer, but it's not a definite until everything happens, and you'd have to go through the process of the LOMA through FEMA.
I think the most
I really want to
important.
look at that further, because my initial thought, I have to research it because I don't know, is that you're putting that on the developer. That's one of the developer's steps.
Okay.
I think the important.
It's the developer seeking whatever approvals it needs from.
Well, that's why I'm asking, because there were references in the document that it was responsibility of the town of Guilford to do that.
Yeah, as we draw
I don't
the
think so.
RFP, my initial reaction is we're going to be putting that on the.
I think the important point is that we identify in the RFP to the prospective developers that this is something that needs to be addressed and explored as part of their due diligence. And I think we also want to make clear that we are partners, the town is partnered with the developer in this project. We want this to go forward, and that we will do whatever we can in terms of this partnership. Once the developer is identified, we will work with them, and that'll be part of the negotiation process once we have a preferred developer and are working on a contract with them.
How much of an area and how much height are we talking about having if we had to go to fill route?
It's really not a lot in the area where they're, anticipating the structures be built. I think it's in the order of a couple feet to really get yourself out of the floodplain. If anything, a little more than that. And keep in mind, when you're doing earthwork, which is in this case would be filling, you also have to take into account that if they want to build something on it, you have to consider what's in sight, is it suitable materials, and does that first need to be removed and replaced and all the rest of it. So it would be best to do it as part of the cooperation with a developer on board who would probably, implement the whole thing.
The other question I had relative to deep was under the civil and septic analysis section. It mentions that the proposed project as presented doesn't require submission and/or permitting with Connecticut Department of Energy and Environmental Protection, deep. That is just specific to the civic and septic portion of this project, correct?
Septic, right. The project is designed not to have to do that. Correct.
Exactly, okay.
If, when you say it's designed, this
Number
will
of
not be
bedrooms.
quote-unquote an engineered system type thing?
Well, it might be engineered, but it's not going to be
Wow.
a size to the threshold that DEP permit is required for the septic system. It'll be a local public health department permit, the way as I understand
So
it.
it's not, when I said engineered, I meant sometimes
Yes. I know what
highly
you- I know what you mean.
sophisticated one
Right.
for problematic areas. That's not what we're talking about.
No, this is, that's one of the feasibility issues we addressed first. And this site has highly favorable soils for leaching systems.
I didn't mean that it wouldn't be engineered. I just,
Right.
you know,
I understood
that's
what
what
you
you
meant.
As a point of clarification, I don't want these questions to suggest that I am not supportive of this project.
No.
There is a heightened sensitivity to our relationship with DEP, and I want to make sure that we are conforming to everything that we need to relative to DEP. I next want to move on to the affordable household incomes and rent section. It's important to note, I think, for the community, what we're talking about in terms of targets for affordable housing here. And in the note from Patrickin is additionally, to meet the affordability requirements, the housing should cost less than 30% of household income, including any tenant-paid utilities. And that's based on medium incomes, I believe. There's a table that was provided to us that shows the household size of 1 through household size of 4, and 5% of AMI, which would be under that 30% threshold, to technically qualify as affordable housing. Basically talks, and in the high end is with a four-person family is $22,025. The low end with a single individual is $15,000. So if I do some quick math, you multiply those numbers by 4, that gets you the targeted income range, which looks to be about $62,000 to $88,000. Am I correct in that assumption? That is the target
That's
audience?
the high end.
That's the high end.
This is something I think we want to address in the RFP, what our goal is. And we want to provide an opportunity for a mix of incomes within the community that we create there. We want to provide as much subsidy as we can for the people who are at the lowest end.
Right.
And all of that will be something that has to be negotiated with the developer, which will be a function of what is it going to actually cost to develop the property, and what kind of income are they going to have from rents to make it feasible, which will also be a function of what kind of grants and tax credits they get. So all of that is going to be part of this negotiation. I think the criteria that we've the 3 sets of general criteria that we've looked at are: 1, we'd like a mix of household sizes and incomes in the project. We'd like to provide as much affordability as we can, and that this property is primarily designed for households with children, as opposed to elderly and disabled. That's the need that was identified primarily that we wanted to try to address.
Another term that we use the term affordable as opposed to low income, which is another whole kind of project, which this is not. But also, it's workforce housing. It's for people who are employed and would like to live in Guilford and would like a reasonable rent. And I recently went to United Way Greater New Haven Community Fund presentation, and Guilford has 25% of the children in Guilford schools qualify for free lunch. So we have a group of people who are not necessarily on welfare, but people who are working, but their incomes are not necessarily what we might think they are, and they would fit within this formula that we're looking at.
An affordable housing option is just what they need to
Right.
keep them on track.
Right. And I think it's important to note that we're talking about average incomes between 66, 62 and 88. The median income in Guilford, based on the 2016 report, I think the Guilford Foundation put out, is about 102,000. So you can see that that is affordable, that in terms of income thresholds, that definitely qualifies in terms of affordable in our community. That may not be the case in a New Haven, or other communities, but clearly out here, that is a different definition of affordable housing. I just want to make sure people are aware of that. There was, Sandy, I'm glad you just mentioned this, there have been several folks who have approached me over time saying, no, this is great, we're going to get more senior housing. Are seniors precluded from?
No, I don't think that would be legal, but the
Right.
target market is households with children or empty nest, not empty nest, or younger households. That's where we think the greatest need is.
That's it for me. Anyone else?
Great presentation.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Experts are over there.
All right, what do we need? Do we need a motion to move forward here, or?
Yeah, I believe there's a motion, we need a motion to move forward
I'll
to
move that.
allowing the, you trust me?
Tracy.
There you go, there you go. Allow the Housing for Economic Development Committee to issue a request for proposal for a possible affordable housing project on the Woodruff Rollwood property. And Charlie's put that in form of a motion. He'll second it. Any further questions or comments? Hearing none, call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you very much.
Work has just begun now.
Yeah, now the fun begins.
Thank you,
Yeah.
thank you, George.
Okay.
Thank you, Janice. Janice, thank you.
Thank you very much, George. Thank you,
Thank you,
Janice.
committee, for coming. See you soon.
Yeah. We're gonna give Lou a temporary break here.
Concerned about the RFP stage, let's talk about that. Get some responses. Blue sky. This sounds like we've done some homework.
Just for a minute, yeah. Lou is going to get some water he needs.
Trace, can I get a hard copy?
And we're back. Next item is item 9, consider and take possible action on the Board of Selectmen meeting schedule for 2019. We have the schedule in front of us. We had some preliminary discussion about possibly moving some dates because, as is typically the case, we meet on the first and third Monday of each month. There are some holidays that fall on Mondays, and there are some conflicts with Charlie and Sandy relative to commitments they have with Guilford Savings Bank. And this past year, or the year we're currently in, we accommodated those commitments by moving a couple of the meetings. So Sandy, do you have an idea of which ones we would need to accommodate an afternoon meeting? Or?
I think the only one in these 12 months here that would be helpful if it was moved to the afternoon would be the meeting on February 19th, rather than having it in the morning, and it's already a Tuesday, so it's been moved a day because of the holiday, to have it sometime after 12 o'clock on the 19th.
Would 1 o'clock be?
What about the January 22nd meeting?
I was looking, and the third Tuesday for that is actually the 15th, because the first
Right, one-
Tuesday,
yeah,
so the bank will be
1/8,
meeting on the
15th.
15th, I think.
I don't have them plugged in yet, so.
We could always move it.
Yeah, I don't think there's gonna be a conflict in January, Charles.
Okay, good.
But there's definitely a conflict in February.
Is 1 o'clock a good time?
Do you think that's good?
Yeah.
1 o'clock is good.
Okay, so is there a motion to approve the schedule presented to us as amended by moving the February 19th meeting to 1 o'clock in the afternoon?
So moved.
And a second.
Second.
Call the question, all in favor? Aye. Motion carries. Item 10, appointments and resignations. 10.1, act on the recommendation to appoint Richard Hirsch to the Marina Commission for a term to expire November 30th, 2022. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Call the question, all in favor? Aye.
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 Anyone else?
No,
All right, there you go.
sorry. No disrespect to Mr. Hirsch. We're just still struggling with the
Motion
technology here.
carries. Act on recommendation to appoint Jack Evans to the Land Acquisition Commission as a member at large for a term to expire June 18th, 2019. Is there a motion?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, recusals, hearing none, motion carries. 10.3, act on recommendation to appoint Hirsch Hernandez to the Hazard Mitigation Commission to fill a vacancy for a term to expire September 30th, 2021, and to appoint to the Veterans Advisory Joint Committee to fill a vacancy for a term to expire December 31st, 2021. Is there a motion?
I'll make the motion.
And a second?
Second.
Call the question, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, recusals, hearing none, motion carries. Act on, 10.4, act on recommendation to reappoint Damian Gunningsmith to the Economic Development Commission for a term to expire November 30th, 2022. Is there a motion?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Call the question, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, recusals, hearing none, motion carries. On item 11, I'd like to indulge the board by adding an agenda item, 11.2, and that was a document that was passed to us, which is in regulations affecting private and unattended displays under Guilford Town Green. Is there a motion?
I'll make the motion to add that to the agenda.
Second.
Call the question, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. 11.1, act on request from the Boy Scouts Troop 471 to place a sign on the green advertising its Christmas tree recycling taking place January 5th and 12th, 2019. Is there a motion?
So moved.
And a second.
Second.
Any comments or questions? Call the question, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, recusals, hearing none, motion carries. On 11.2, this is the applicant is Shabbat Lubavitch of the Shoreline, and this is, the display description is the Hanukkah menorah and public lighting. Display is to be erected on 11/28 and removed on 12/12/2018. Is there a motion?
So moved.
And a second.
Second.
Call the question, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, abstained, recusals, hearing none, motion carried. Wonderful. Okay. Correspondence. We had a couple of items that I wanted to share with you under correspondence. Well, obviously, first we had building report. Any comments or questions on the building report? None? Same for Public Works? Any questions or
Got the
comments?
plows ready.
Not ready. They are, they've been used. They've been used. Okay. And item 3, and this is correspondence I received from a potential Eagle Scout candidate, or an Eagle Scout candidate, right? Ben Brecklin, who, and I'll read it to you for those in the audience. My name is Ben Brecklin from Boy Scout Troop 474 here in Guilford. He has sent an email concerning a project through the town website. And either way, my idea for my Eagle Scout project was just approved by the Marina Commission. The project is constructing a wooden informational kiosk directly next to the island with a large tree on it in the marina parking lot. I will also be creating at least 2 signs for the kiosk, which will highlight the history of Grass Island and the marina itself. I'm also working on relocating an already existing Faulkner Islands Light Brigade sign to be incorporated into my kiosk. I am contacting you because I was told by the Marina Commission that the parking lot may be under the town's jurisdiction, and he is correct. I have also spoken with Mr. Federici, who directed me to you as well, and told me you may be able to direct some traffic for me, and I like that term of art, for me, and help me contact whoever I need to get this project to move forward. I hope to hear from you soon. Well, I think young
Sounds like
Mr.
an
Breck...
exact quote.
Yeah, exactly. And it sounds like young Mr. Brecklin is well organized and has covered all of his bases. And again, because this is a parking lot which does fall under the jurisdiction of the town, our approval, I think, is required at this point. Lou, are you comfortable?
I am.
You've had a conversation.
I've actually worked with this particular scout over the years on various things, and he's a great communicator, as you can see. And frankly, I'm just going to point out that the whole purpose of this Eagle Scout project is not the physical effort of putting it up, but it's the organizational development that it requires, and you can see he's on a good path.
So I'm for this, I have no problem with it, but who actually makes sure that he is doing what he's supposed to be doing and not doing anything that would block traffic or block sight? Is it the Marina Commission who will kind of supervise
Well,
him?
that's, I think, why it bounced out. I mean, they thought it was, as I understand it, they liked the idea of this sign, but as it related to those kind of questions, they couldn't speak to it, and it has to either, get clearance from the police department or Public Works or whomever.
Right. And my thought was that we should have the police department weigh in, because it is parking and traffic flow potentially impacting.
Like
So,
or sightlines.
sightlines, that kind of thing. So I would be in favor of improving this project contingent upon input from the police commission, police department and police commission relative to the appropriateness of where it's placed, the size, et cetera.
Yeah, I
so-
agree. I mean, it
I
sounds.
wouldn't mind actually this board seeing,
Seeing a mock-up of what he's doing?
well, yeah, I mean, you don't want a billboard.
Right.
No, I think it typically, if you're familiar with the one that's on, right outside of the fairgrounds, that was a scout project. And there's also one up
I
at,
understand, and most of them are, and I have no problem, like Sandy, it's not an objection as long as we're on that same page.
I think
Is
it's
it gonna be on the point or down by the ramp?
completely appropriate. I think it's, as you approach the parking lot, there's a little island there that actually, when the road race runs around, there's a little traffic island, if you will, with a small tree on it, and I think it's in that area. So, I mean, exactly where you place it and how you place it could affect the traffic flow, and it makes.
Well, just that, it's probably not gonna go through any P and Z and design review and any of that kind of commotion, but I think early in the stage, if somebody, whether it be police, park and rec, or this board, gets a general conceptual idea, it would be a bad thing.
Well, let's add that to the motion to approve contingent upon submission of general design plans and design
Size and
schematics,
placement.
size, et cetera, as well as the police departments or police commissions weighing in
Because
terms
we're
of
not
traffic
asking him to
impact.
do anything he doesn't have, he'd have to have these plans anyway to
Right.
do.
Yes, that's no question.
And as part of that motion, we'll also designate Lou Federici as our Boy Scout liaison.
Happy to take it on.
All things Boy Scout related. Because of his long-standing history of involvement and activity as a leader in the Boy Scout
I'll move that.
organization. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
It's either Lou or Susan, she's missed the meeting.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, abstaining, recusals, hearing none, that motion carries. And I'm sure you'll get back to Mr. Brecklin on that.
Will do.
Okay, the next item is also an Eagle Scout project. This one is going to be a little bit more difficult for us to make any decision on today. And this is from Michael Neese, I think I have his name pronounced correctly, Life Scout in Troop 471, and he is proposing to build a gazebo on the town green. I know this could be a lot of work, and there may be objections, but I believe that I have the determination, skills, and support to complete this project successfully. I would like to set up a meeting with you to discuss my plans and proposals. I have provided a brief description of the project below. So what I just wanted you guys to know that this was coming through. I intend to have a meeting with Mr. Neese and Lou. You would probably be in attendance at that, if possible. This has some significant challenges.
No question.
Notwithstanding the normal processes to do anything on the green, particularly as it relates to the Green Committee. And I don't even know whether the Historical Commission would be weighing in on this as
I
well.
gotta comment, I mean,
Or Historical District, rather.
I was born and raised in Milford, who's got a pretty nice screen also, not as big, but I'm not sure, but I think that gazebo on that green is even a historical building at this point in time. But I remember it even as a child, and when I get back down there, it's used, whether it be parades or what, it's almost like a grandstand type thing, but it's not big and it's historical. And so, as much as I think it's a neat idea, I can appreciate the challenges that's going to the community. It'd be interesting to see how it goes. I mean, maybe people will embrace it. I don't know.
Yeah. And again, this is one that I think we need to have a fair amount of public input.
Early
Early in the project, in the process, and then because this is a significant change to what is arguably the most significant asset that the community, that the town of Guilford has, or at least the most endeared and endearing asset we have. So you and I will get together with Mr. Neese.
Sounds good.
That sound good?
So we'll just report back then before we act on that.
Absolutely.
Okay, good.
Absolutely. All right. Okay, anything else?
Well, the only other comment I'm going to make today is, what brought me, to my attention was our appointment to land acquisition. And now with the facilities task force, who I know is also looking at town properties and type of thing. I mean, has anybody talked to that commission regarding making sure that they're not going down any paths without reviewing it with that task force?
Yeah, actually, it could be a conversation within one individual's head. Gary McKelney is chair of the Facilities Task Force, and he's also a member of the Land Acquisition, and he has clearly been communicating with his board.
I don't want one committee going down one path.
Right. And remember, the Land Acquisition Committee has to come back to us with any recommendations anyway. So.
Don't want to waste any time on things that haven't been reviewed.
Good point. Good point.
I gotta make sure.
Okay. No other correspondence, committee reports? Lou?
A meeting with the first selectman in North Haven next week after the holiday.
Good.
And I'm gonna get in touch with Branford on the question of building fisheries.
Okay, good. Sandy, your committee assignment there was well received. Very good presentation today. Old business.
I noticed that Park and Rec, sorry, it's not old business again, but I was noticing in one of the Park and Rec meetings, they were having a fee discussion also.
Yep. That's been ongoing. That sort of grew out of what was a rather heated exchange between a couple of the youth sports groups in town related to the appropriateness of the use of fields by some sports group and the fees and any fees associated with the use based on the percentage of children or participants that were Guilford residents. So that project that has been going on for several months.
And it's always been a discussion. I just want to make sure it is part of a bigger picture, that we're not reacting to one thing and, unintended consequences.
And of course, the fire commission's already made a recommendation, so that'll come together with the building fee.
Yeah, the park and rec fees will be outside of what you guys are doing.
Yeah.
Any other old business? New business? Anybody have some? Well, I have one item of new business, and I was hoping the chief was here. Yeah, you want to see if you could bring the chief in for a quick second? This is off. This is fun.
Left the meeting at 10, if it's not over.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, this is going to be,
Okay.
this is a fun item.
Oh, good, okay. Every item is a fun item.
Executive session.
So what you're
I
saying,
think
do
it-
more
I
than-
think we can at this point.
I have a question where do we go?
Okay, so we do that with all.
Charlie's is
This is terrible. Gonna do it.
Should I stop the tape?
Yeah, for a second, yeah, just for a second. We're back under new business. There was one item, I was invited recently by one of the officers of the Guilford Police Department to participate in an event on December 1st.
Right.
It is in support of the Special Olympics, which is a cause near and dear to the police department's heart.
Absolutely.
And it's what we used to refer to as the Penguin Plunge. It's called something else now, right?
Yeah, it's the, because we can't use the name, it's
It's a dog or something.
Something dunk.
You told me you were coming, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't,
Don't worry about it.
I blocked on it. yeah.
Okay. But nonetheless, I'm issuing a challenge.
Oh, okay.
I am planning on participating, and this is one of those events where the participants try to raise funds. If there's anyone out in the audience that would like to either contribute to your campaign or my campaign to participate, and I think Lou's probably going to be in this one as well, and anyone else who wants to, certainly to do it. But
I'll contribute to everybody.
I
Send me in.
just wanted to make sure that folks in the community are aware of this event and that it's a tremendous cause.
Absolutely.
Many years ago, I used to participate in several of the events, including the law enforcement torch run, which is a tremendous event that takes place every year just before Special Olympics. So I assume you were going to be doing the.
I am absolutely going to do it, and that's why I think, if you've noticed the beards, that'll keep us warm as well, but that's another event that we're participating in, which is the No Shave November. We're raising money for cancer research. So our officers, on November 30th, will be shaving, including me. Or maybe we'll keep it until the plunge, December 1st. But yeah, both fantastic causes. I would encourage anybody that wants to go down and support everybody that's participating.
Or participate themselves.
Either by showing up, or by contributing, or by jumping in yourselves.
It's at Jacob's Beach.
It's at Jacob's Beach.
It's at Jacob's Beach, December 1st at
11?
11 a.m., I believe. It's on our Facebook page, on our website.
Whenever the sun is highest in the sky.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to matter.
It doesn't matter, you're right. Good. Well,
So thank you for pointing that out, and certainly I encourage everybody's support and participation. Thank you.
Any other new business? Public forum. Anyone wishing to address the board? I think some of you are familiar with the drill. Name and address for the record, please.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Cindy Vaporis, 7 Alpine Drive, East Haven, Connecticut, United States of America. You guys know me. I've been here before. I'm here again about Simon. You probably feel that it's out of your hands now. It's gone to Department of Agriculture. I want you to know I was at that last meeting of Department of Agriculture, and we were not allowed in. These are supposed to be public meetings. It's all getting to be very bad here. What I feel really should have happened was when you guys came into office, because I know this was set into your laps. This is a horrible thing for somebody else to have to deal with. These other people are la wherever they are. But this dog should have been taken in, 14-day quarantine, just like every other dog bite in the country, okay? It should have been investigated. The dog should have been looked at by an assessor of aggressive dogs. This dog should have gone home. The Youngs were willing to work this out, neighborly. That's all on record. This has gone way above where it should be. It's costing the town of Guilford money. We all know what that figure is, but I guess hearing the figures of your median incomes and all, it's dropping the bucket for some of you folks. But it's not for us, and it's not for Dr. Young. This is costing him money also. This is not a free ride for his family. This is not fun for his family. If you look at me and you look at these folks here who are Simon's usual supporters, and that's what I'll be until this is over. I will be there every step of the way for the Young family because I'm here for them. I'm also here for this dog because he does not deserve this, but I'm here for this family. This is a family. Holidays are coming. When you're at your holiday table enjoying your turkeys and you're reaching down and handing your dog that bit of turkey from your plate, think about Simon, who's sitting right here behind us in a concrete cage. Okay? He's not with his loving family. Have any of you, I know I'm not supposed to ask questions, but have any of you folks gone over there and seen the dog? Has anyone gone? An answer? Well, I would suggest that maybe perhaps you go over and you see this dog. I have footage, and hopefully I'm going to have all of my PowerPoint ready for the next meeting. I have footage of me visiting the dog. If this dog was as aggressive and mean as everybody said, as soon as that dog door opened to that kennel, that dog would have been out at the fence barking and just not letting go. The door opened. I went, "Hi, Simon." The dog looked at me, wagged his tail, and went about his business. I'm hoping that you folks will try to help us here and get this dog home. Get this off the town of Guilford. This has gone nationwide. This is not good publicity for you folks. When I was at this meeting at the Department of Agriculture, Chief Hutchinson was there, and he's puffing his chest up at me. What is that? I have footage of that also. That just shows another bad point of Guilford. I also have personal contact with a woman whose dog was shot on her own property by a rookie police officer of Guilford because he was scared of the dog that came around the corner of the fence while they were on their property. It's not really looking good. You know, I'm here as a mom whose child was a victim of a dog bite, okay? That dog was on a medication that it probably shouldn't have been on that long. Was I upset while my child laid in the emergency room having her head stitched, getting over 50 stitches, not 11, 50, okay? Did I run out and kill this dog? No, I did not. No, I did not. I'm not that kind of person. What this shows is that the Phillies are just in it for the buck. These are the people whose son got bit. This child is not hurt by this. He's running around, he's playing sports, he's not devastated. My daughter is 30 years old, lives in Arizona, and now has 2 dogs of her own. Okay? She still lived with the dog that bit her and attacked her. Okay? She doesn't have a problem. You know who has a problem? I do. I'm the one who's leery of dogs. But I took myself over here to see this dog because me being afraid of dogs, he would have sensed it and he would have came out to that fence and he would have taken advantage of it. I'm hoping you feel that that there is something you can do here. I don't know what it is, but I'm trying to appeal to you as folks with morals. I'm a believer in the Constitution of the United States of America. This dog deserves his chance to come home, okay? Dr. Young is willing to put up bigger fences, do what he can to make sure that everyone in this neighborhood feels safe, okay? I think that this man's willing to do everything there is to bring his family member home. Can't you help us? Really? This really has to end here. This dog should be home for the holidays with his family, like we are all home with our pets. There are 5 dogs in Fairfield that were left to die because some human decided, I'm gonna do this and do that, but we'll leave these pups to die. Here's a dog that has a loving family, okay? This dog needs to come home. I thank you. I wish you all a very happy holiday.
Same to you.
I will be wishing you Merry Christmas next month.
Thank you. We look forward to seeing you again.
Thank you, me too.
Anyone else wishing to address the board?
Hello.
Hello.
I'm Catherine Adams, 250 Drumara Road. Thank you, everyone, for hearing my words today. I was very interested in everything you had to say today about everything, and I've got lots of comments about things that are going on, but I also came today to ask about Simon. This is something that is near and dear to my heart from multiple sides, so I won't even get into that. But my request today is a feasibility study to see if he can come home. I would like Simon to be evaluated by an evaluator who has the ability to see if he is dangerous to society. I don't know if that's actually happened, and I don't have, personally don't have access to those records, so if he has been evaluated by a professional and he's deemed dangerous, I would like to see that evaluation and have that be a part of public record. I think that would be helpful for everybody. So that's the one thing. And then the other point would be precedence for an ongoing impounding of a dog that is not deemed dangerous. So what's the precedence for that? And whether we could look at that as a team so we can get to a point where we all can be okay with what's going on. And I share the citizens' point that it's really hard during the holidays to be up against this, and it's really hard for you guys to be dealing with this. And as a community, we can get through this. We don't need to be bound by previous findings if they're no longer accurate. If we find them no longer accurate, we can look at them. So a feasibility study would allow us to evaluate and look at the situation and see how we can move forward together where everyone feels safe.
Thank you.
So thank you.
Thank you for your comment.
Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to address the board? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
All in favor? Aye. Opposed, abstained, recusals, hearing none, motion carries. Thank you all. Sandy, you're out of here in time.
Yes, thank you so much.
How was your trip? How was my friend Mary Wilbur? Did you see her now?